Oromo-led anti-government protests that began in late 2015, assisted by first the Amahara region and later joined by others, helped bring about the resignation of Ethiopia's former prime minister and the rise to power of the current premier, Abiy Ahmed, on April 2, 2018.
ፈጣሪ ኢትዮጵያንና ሕዝቦቿን አብዝቶ ይባርክ።
Abiy Ahmed, who is an Oromo, was hailed by many as a unifier and ushered a sense of euphoric optimism in the country. He freed political prisoners and removed leaders of banned groups, including the Oromo Liberation Front, from a blacklist.
ኢትዮጵያውያን ስንኖር ኢትዮጵያዊ ስንሞት ደግሞ ኢትዮጵያ እንሆናለን.
In September 2018, violence spiked as a result of exiled OLF leaders that returned to Ethiopia. It had waged a 4-decade insurgency for self-determination for Oromos. Police said at least 23 people were killed in a weekend of violence, targeting minorities in the town of Burayu, a suburb near the capital city, Addis Ababa. Local residents said shops were looted and people attacked by mobs of Oromo youth that are self-identified as the Qero and elements of the Oromia State Police who stormed through streets targeting businesses and homes of ethnic minorities. The head of the Oromia Region's Police Commission denied accusations that police were slow to respond to the attacks. In August 2019, following a steady increase of attacks on Orthodox churches, clergy, and Orthodox Christians in various parts of the country, members of the Holy Synod of the Orthodox Church were called into emergency session to discuss the escalation in attacks. At the same time, a group of renegade priests announced the formation of a separate branch of the Orthodox Church for the Oromia region without sanction of the Holy Synod. Using defiant and vaguely threatening language, the clergy refused the demand of the church leadership to desist. The church, which has long provided service in the Oromo language in Oromo populated areas, stated that it would be contrary to canon law to set up a parallel and separate administration for Oromos, and that church was for all the faithful and could not be divided by ethnicity. After this confrontation, attacks against the church escalated. Just months later, following Oromo activist Jawar Mohammed claims of assassination plots against him, violent protests erupted in different towns in the Oromia region. Within 2 days of his claims, over 62 people were killed, many of them beaten with stones, metal rods, and sticks. Others were beheaded, mutilated, and burned to death. The victims that died in this round of violence at the hands of extremist Qero were targeted based on their religion, ethnicity, or for not being supporters of the violence. The victims included children, women, the elderly, and priests. What happened in October 2019 in Ethiopia was a massacre. There were youth mobs armed with sticks, machetes, and stones, incited by an activist and his media organ, OMN, went on a rampage, killing 86 people, injuring hundreds, displacing thousands, and burning and looting churches and property in the millions, while the authorities looked the other way. In the aftermath of the October violence, the U.S. ambassador to Ethiopia, Michael Arthur Rayner, posted on the embassy Facebook page saying, "We are deeply troubled by the recent hatred, inflammatory language, and violence, as we are by all such incidents in Ethiopia. Violence and hatred are the solution to exactly none of Ethiopia's challenges." During the traditional Orthodox Christian feasts of Massacared and Temket, in many parts of Oromia, Orthodox Christians were prevented from gathering to celebrate in public by radical so-called Qero mobs. They were harassed and Ethiopian flags put up to decorate church premises were torn down and trampled. The Orthodox Church has repeatedly appealed to both federal and regional governments to protect its faithful from persecution, harassment, and killing. Then, on June 29, 2020, within hours of the death of Hachalu Hundessa, a noted Ethiopian performing artist and an Oromo political activist, another fatal round of violence was launched. Hachalu Hundessa was shot to death in his car in Ethiopia's capital city, Addis Ababa, and extremist elements within the Oromia region went on a riot of killing and destruction. This latest incident was incited by false accusations blaming the Neftenya, which is widely used as a pejorative term to describe those of Amhara descent and Orthodox Christians living in the Oromia region of Ethiopia. OMN broadcast live calls for attacks on Amharas, and activists went on social media platforms to also call for revenge against Amharas. According to eyewitnesses, these calls were answered by extremist mobs on the ground that went on a killing and destructive campaign door to door with a list of non-Oromo residents and businesses. Over 230 people were killed, thousands displaced, and millions in property lost. The stories emerging from the survivors attest to horrors suffered by those killed in barbaric ways based on their ethnic identity and religion, while the regional security authorities looked the other way. These attacks are being falsely characterized by the Ethiopian government as a conflict when they are not. Likewise, in Benishangul Gumuz, located in the western region of Ethiopia, had at least 140 people killed by armed militia men and thousands of ethnic Amhara and Gumuz people displaced. According to Bloomberg News, these attacks started around September 6th and followed a similar pattern of attacks by militia men over the past few months. These rounds of targeted killings follow the recent leaked audio tape by the president of the Oromia region, Mr. Shimelis Abdisa.
Sanandura kan bilkaa'uu dadhabeef kiliirri namni beeku kan irra jiraatu addawaayin kan TPLF jecha TPLF immoo addawaayii kan ijaare aangoorra taa'uudhaaf aangoorra turuudhaaf nuyis badhaadhina kan ijaarreef aangoorraa buufii miti. Badhaadhinni immoo jaalattanis jibbitanis kan keenya nutu jaarrate akka nuuf ta'utti so mirga abbaa biyyummaa dhimma aangoo faana sol qabatee jiru hojimaataan cufnee jiru badhaadhina minimum ammaan booda namni gaggeessu Oromoo ta'uu qaba yoo Oromoon ta'an Oromoon eeyyamuufii qaba paartii akkasii jaarrate.
These violent episodes are becoming increasingly organized and growing in magnitude and viciousness. They are the result of a sustained disinformation campaign, exploitation of historical grievances, historical revisionism, and dehumanization of ethnic minorities through social media and airwaves. The involvement of the regional security apparatus in the purging of ethnic minorities elevates the sense of urgency and affirms the very nature of the ethnic cleansing taking place in the region. Although the extremist Oromo movement, like OLF, assisted by elements of the Oromia State Police, is a small subset of the overall peace-loving Oromo ethnic group, the continued brainwashing of the young adult and youth groups and the organized nature of these attacks has the potential for significant damage. The targeted ethnic and religious groups, such as Amharas, Christians, other non-Oromo residents, account for nearly 50% of the regional population. But unless swift measures are taken to prevent it, Ethiopia will descend into genocide and ethnic cleansing.
Obang is right. Those are acts of genocide. And the Genocide Convention defines genocide as acts. So when you have people being killed because of their ethnic identity or their religious identity, those are acts of genocide. That's genocide. So Obang is right about that. Bystanderism by the police and federal forces that happen to be all around in Ethiopia, and yet when they see genocidal violence being perpetrated, they just look the other way. They turn their backs or walk away. That kind of bystanderism is it's an igniter, it's a trigger for genocide.
It is not too late to prevent such a tragedy from occurring. Inform yourself, speak out, and take action. Say no to ethnic cleansing. Together, we can be a voice for the voiceless. Take action by texting Ethiopia to 1-810-346-1859.
And if they can get away with them and there's no response, then they know they can get away with much more. And that is a terrible, terrible precedent then for much wider genocide.